Sheila Gillette, just thank you so much for joining us today.
Kevin, it's so good to be with you again. I always enjoy our conversations.
Well, it's great to have you back on. And I also want to just thank your husband, Marcus, as well, for making this interview happen. We will be speaking to the group of angels at your channel, Theo, just a bit later on in the show. I just want to mention before we start the show that we have a 2-day online class on psychic exploration on April the 22nd, and that you're doing a 12-week intensive version of the same course with psychic exploration with Theo starting May the 9th. And the links are on the screen for that, so they'll also be in the description below.
Yes, it's coming up. And, we have a lot of fun. As you know, you participated. And really, when I opened up to doing the work with Theo, Kevin, as you know, we've chatted about this before. But when I opened up, I didn't have any mentors. I had the angels that were guiding me and teaching me. And back then, I knew I wanted to be available to people to assist them as they are opening psychically and intuitively and having their own experiences, because I knew that this was the evolution of consciousness that Theo was speaking about. So we developed this program to support people that are opening, they're having their own psychic experiences, intuitive experiences, and to take the fear out. People are afraid that they're going to lose themselves, and that's just not true. But as we have more information and more guidance, and to your point, safety, of feeling in an environment of safety to express and experience, and then we can have some fun. We can really play in those realms, which is a God-given right for all of us to be connected like that.
Oh, most definitely. And for me, to be able to tap into that greater part of ourselves, or to have that intuition, to just know that everything's going to be okay, because there's so much turbulence, there's so much change going on out there right now, and there's a lot of fear. And I think, developing that psychic part of you is just another way of just knowing that, there's not true, a lot of it, not what's going on is not true, but the fear of the consequences of some of that stuff to yourself. Everything's going to be okay. Only you can tell yourself that sometimes, and to have that ability to tap in, I just think it's so important.
It really is. To tap into the true self is very important, because then, we all have a truth barometer in us. We know when we speak truth and when truth is spoken to us. My particular barometer, I get chills up my spine. I can just feel that energy run through my body when there's truth. So I learned to ask on the inner, because our higher power will tell us the truth, that I hear something and then I'll ask, is that true? And I'll have a visceral feeling, because it's not an either or, it's a yes and no question. And so I've learned to trust that, and we all have it. We all have the ability to know our truth and to check in. Teachers call it critical thinking, but I'll even go a step a little further. It's critical feeling, because our intellectual mind sometimes gets us off track, but our feelings don't. Our inner knowing doesn't. Our soul knowing doesn't get us off track. And that's what we're tapping into.
That's right. And we're going to get into all that as well. There's so much to talk about in such little time. Now, for those that have not come across your work before, just very briefly, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do as well.
So I am a direct voice trance medium, and the entities or the angelic presence that speaks to me and through me is known as Theo, a group of 12 archangels known collectively by that name. And I've been doing this work for 5 decades after a near-death experience. And so that was my opening in 1969. And I've been doing this work ever since. And, writing books with Theo and giving information, prophetic information that really, 35 years ago, the Fifth Dimension book came out, and it was talking about the times we're living in now, which is it's an interesting process for me to have lived through those times and living now. And I'm so optimistic because so many confirmations have come with the information that they've imparted to us. So I look forward to coming out of the chaos that is now into this new higher conscious state that we're all evolving to.
That's right. Your book, went into detail about a lot of the times that it prophesied, didn't it? In a sense, the times that we live in right now, which have come, to fruition. And yeah, that's just a testimony of the work, isn't it? Really, it really is.
Definitely, yeah, it is.
God, that journey that you've taken to get to this point, so much has been learned, right? And so much is to still be learned, I suppose, as well. Let's get into the idea then that, as you said there, which many guests do talk about, this times that we're living right now. So we're living, I would guess you would agree with, this is a very extraordinary time for humanity in a sense. So what's it mean with this idea of going into the fifth dimension?
Well, the fifth dimension is a very refined energy. The third dimension was denser. It's our physical reality. The fourth has been a spiritual awakening. And now the fifth is a full realization of the souls that we are having a human experience. Theo calls it the divine essence. And so that's emerging in and through all of us now. And so the veils between our multidimensional experience have thinned. So we have a greater capability of touching into our soul's knowing, our guidance that is ever present about us, and we're changing belief patterns that have been passed along for thousands of years. You probably hear a lot about generational patterning that people are doing therapies with and so forth. Well, that's true stuff. Theo created a program called the soul integration process that they've been sharing with us for 5 decades. And that's a process, not only like inner child work or soul retrieval, it is that and more, because it touches into the soul and the multidimensional parts of ourselves that have influence on the present as well. And it allows us to change beliefs that have been passed along for thousands of years. And as we change those beliefs, this consciousness shifts out of the old paradigms, the old ways of thinking. We're laying new neural pathways in our brains out of the default system of fright, flight, fear to empowered knowing that we're more than these physical bodies and we have more ability than we even know.
Right, absolutely. And so with a lot of people, I suppose, living in fear, what would you say to some of those people living in fear in respects to the work that you've been doing for all these years?
Resistance come in old beliefs. And what I see happening, Kevin, that people are starting to have their own experiences, their own intuitive experiences blossoming. They're hearing messages, they're having visions, they're having all kinds of experience that they want to know more about. So people believe most in their own experiences, don't they? So when I started doing this, people were very afraid and wouldn't even talk about it for fear of retribution and pushback, which there was some of. But now I see, channeling is talked about on TV. You'll hear newscasters saying, "Oh, I'm channeling." And it makes me giggle inside, because Theo told me years ago that much of this transformation would come through the media, movies, television, and even before the internet, way before the internet, that we'd have this global platform. So like I said, I'm so enthusiastic and optimistic about where we're going, because we are birthing a new world. The old ways, the old foundational ways aren't working. And so we're seeing them dissolve, but everything that's been under the surface had to come up to be changed. And, it's kind of like when we get sick, we have to have a fever to burn out all the old stuff in our cells to get clean and healthy again. So that's the way I view this time. That's what we're doing as a species, but we're also having those changes on our planet in structural change, economic changes, and political changes, and new foundational businesses, because the old platforms don't work. So we are participating in that and witnessing that. And so I think it's exciting to be a part of that.
It's incredible, actually, that because I've read bits of the first book that you've done when I first came to interview you. That, yeah, I mean, this was yourself and others have prophesied this time. I've mentioned that before in this interview, that this was not going to be an easy ride in a sense, and there's a time, isn't there? This will be over when it's over. The time for the change is now, isn't it? It's coming into purpose is now. Some people may say, yeah, but what's the higher purpose of having such major changes throughout the world and disruption and everything else? But there is a purpose, isn't there?
There is. It's a higher conscious state, a greater awareness of who we are and how we are. What I find, and this is true for me too, we as humans, we can conjure up all kinds of stuff in our brain about, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But if you distill it down to say, what effect is this having on my life? All of this sensational, fear-based rhetoric that we hear, we get this, oh my God, it's horrible. It's going to, but of everything that happens, new things come that are better still. There's a comedian on YouTube. I can't remember who he is, but he did this whole thing about being in an airplane and people complaining about having to wait to get on, and then they complain that the internet didn't work, and he said, my God, you're sitting in a seat in the air. It's like, yeah, and maybe the internet just came online and you're 5 minutes in, you're complaining it's not working. We are just taking so many things for granted that in the last few years that we didn't have, a few years ago, we didn't even have. And now we carry a computer in our pocket or our purse, a little mini computer called a phone. When I started this work, they were just getting those mega computers for businesses, particularly banking, that took up whole huge buildings. And now we have this little bitty one for our personal use. It just, I've lived long enough to have come through all that time and go, wow, we need to be grateful rather than fearful. And the thing, when I think about it, because I've gotten into that, oh my God, place, that's our fright, flight, fear. We're changing those neural pathways to what if something wonderful is going to happen, rather than, oh my God, I step out my door and the tiger's going to eat me. That's where it came from. All of these belief systems were way back then at the beginning of our species. And we don't have to live like that anymore. Some are in chaos in such a way that they have to be, but we all know we have sensory perceptivity to know if we're safe in our environment. But we don't have to live in that fear constantly. And unfortunately, that's what we're fed about, in more media. because that's what works and sells. But we need critical thinking on our inner self. And Marcus said to me the other day, how is this affecting our day-to-day life? How is it affecting us? Can we still be at peace? Well, yes, we can. We all have certain challenges we're going through that, we were talking, Kevin, before about, that's just our curriculum for being here. And as we move through those challenges, we're all going to have challenges, just how we perceive them and work with them rather than resist them, that will make the changes that we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. And I think sometimes, well, in my particular situation, those challenges and difficult times, they definitely push you into seeing, what is it I'm doing? What do I feel like I should be doing with my life right now? Am I going in the right direction? Is this the way I want to live the rest of my life? Or is something missing? Is this situation pushing me to see something that I've never wanted to see before, or I've not wanted to face up to it right now? Yet, now is the time to actually listen and hear what maybe is your true calling, in a sense, or a part of your calling.
Exactly. As you're talking, what comes to mind for me, I remember years ago, I was going through some financial stress, and I didn't want to go to the mailbox. I didn't want to see what bill might be there that I may or may not have had money to pay. And, so I just wanted to avoid the whole thing. And I had to make a decision not to be afraid of that. And Kevin, what happened when I did that and I started opening the mail? It wasn't as bad as I thought, because I had conjured up this huge fear-based thing that, I was going to die. I mean, not literally, but that's how it felt, out of the fear. Well, I think that's happening to a lot of us right now. We're trying to push it away so hard that if we really knew the truth of it, it wouldn't be as bad as what we thought. Theo likens it to, those plastic beach balls that you blow up. And we all had it as kids, or our kids had them or had them. And how hard it is to repress that ball under the water and hold it down. Well, that's what we're all doing. We're holding all this stuff inside of us under the water. And when we let it go, we did that for fun and let it go and see how high it would go. Well, we're doing that inside ourselves as we repress that energy rather than meet it and resolve it and move forward. And I think that has been my lesson in my life, is how to transmute that energy in a higher service to myself.
Right, absolutely. I think for my case, I'll just add this. I think I know what it's been telling me and what I really want to do, but you just can't get there right now. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got to go from A to B to C to get there, and there's just no real shortcut. But if I could drop some things today and just do that, I would, right? But it's just not a reality. And I know people may say, yes, but of course it is. You just make it. But I don't know. I think there's a process.
I totally agree with you. It is a process, and every step you take in the direction of the outcome you want is important. Theo uses the analogy of climbing Mount Everest, and that it's a process. The mountain climbers don't start at the base camp and go all the way to the summit in one day. I mean, they climb to a certain altitude, and then they acclimate to that altitude, get more supplies, and then they begin the ascent again. And the interesting part, so this may be good for you, I know it helped me to think in this. When you get closer to the summit, it doesn't get easier. It can get harder. The air is more rarefied. But when you reach the summit, the view is spectacular. And Marcus and I we were somewhere the other night or the other day, a few weeks ago, and we'd taken a drive out into the desert into this ghost town called Cleator, Arizona. So we drove out there. We had to go like 13 or 14 miles on a dirt road. And I mean, it it was way out there, and it was a mining town. And it was interesting to see all these old buildings and everything. But we were talking about, are we ever going to get there? It seemed like it was taking forever on this rutted dirt road, you know. Um, and then on the way home, it was so fast coming home. But isn't that true about everything we do? When we're going in the journey, in the direction, it seems much longer and harder than coming back after you've achieved it. So,
Oh, it's so true.
yeah.
That's a good analogy, actually. That is. Thank you for that. But I will say, I think there is a definite calling right now, a definite time when, you know, if you're going to develop your psychic abilities or your intuitive self, you know, now is the time. If you're not too sure, you know, where life's taking you, or, and as I said before, there's a lot that's going on right now on the planet. Learning how to develop that side, it's a great time to do it right now. With I suppose the energies that are there, I think people are being called into opening that side of them up. That's the way I feel about it right now.
I agree. I agree. It's the time we're living in. And we, the enemy of great is good. Because if everything's going along good, we kind of settle, don't we? We don't kind of push the envelope, most of us, that's human nature. But when things are difficult and we're being challenged, we start looking for the avenue to resolve or transmute whatever's going on. So now many people are challenged. The planet's challenged in the sense of all this transformation that's going on. And so I think it requires us, that's part of the process of going inside and checking in, connecting to our soul and our soul's path, connecting to all the guidance we all have around us. There's a book called Hiring the Heavens, where you just ask the angels to help you. And all you have to do is ask. And it sounds easy, and it is. You just have to ask, because guidance, the angelic realm, your guardian, however you want to talk about it, doesn't matter the word you use, whatever's comfortable for you to let it in, just ask the assistance there. And that's what you're talking about, Kevin, is getting in touch with that, the higher power, our higher self, our connectivity to source. And we all have it.
Yes, we do, and we can all develop it as well, can't we?
Yes.
Yeah, and the process that you teach as well in these classes. Some people may ask, well, how do we develop that in a sense?
Well, what I would say to anybody that asks me, and thank you for the question, is you're already doing it. You just call it something else. You may be having dreams that inform you of your growth or something that's coming prophetically. Or you may call it, oh, I had this gut feeling. Or I knew that. I had no doubt about it. That's all your intuitive energy on target. But you're just using different words. A lot of people say, oh, it's synchronistic or whatever, that are words that aren't psychic, aren't intuition, any of the hot potato words that people might have from a fear-based belief system moving up, that we've all had in different generations. But just start remembering, we all have evidence in our lives of having a message, having our name called. I can't tell you the number of people have said to me, well, you know what? In the middle of the night, I was awake and somebody called my name. Well, we have those kinds of experiences. So it's just tuning into that. It's like listening to the radio, and when you tune in the tuner to the vibrational frequency of the channel you want to hear, you make it clear by just tuning into it. That's all we do when we start practicing tuning in to that guidance. It's just tuning into a frequency that we can align with to get the messages we want to hear.
Absolutely. Well, I've interviewed a lot of channelers on this channel, and some people may be watching this thinking, well, yeah, the psychic development sounds fantastic, but I actually feel like I want a channel. Do you teach that as well? Is that sort of in there at all? Or?
So this is going to sound redundant, but that's what you're doing anyway. Everybody is channeling. You made me giggle on the inside. I talked to a lot of channels on this channel. It's exactly what we're talking about.
This should be the channeling channel. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the truth is, if you're an artist painting a picture, you're channeling that energy through you. If you're a composer, if you're a author, a book writer, or want to be one, or know you write well, you're channeling that energy. It may not be direct voice like I do, but it is a form of using that universal energy in and through this physical body. So it's so in answer to your question, do we talk about that? I think it's not something we teach as much as we talk about it, and then it's remembering on everybody there of their own experience. I think this whole thing is just about remembering who you are. And so as you're given permission, I think that's a huge part of it, don't you? If somebody say you're safe and you can do this, then miracles start happening, because there's a yes, I can do this kind of, it's kind of giving ourselves permission to explore. So in a blanket answer to your question, yes, we do.
No, thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the time as well to sort of go into that purpose, if there was any time, to go into, well, any purpose is purpose in it, but I mean, this ability to be able to tune in. I mean, it not only sort of gives you that peace of mind of that you're more in control than you understand, but obviously I think there's an aspect of the manifestation side to it as well. I think that side of your development sort of kicks in as well when you're sort of more in tune with that greater part of yourself.
Yeah, and many people say, well, the law, manifestation isn't working for me. The law of attraction's not working for me. And Theo would say to you, oh, yes, it is. That energy is working all the time for you. The change comes in the way you think, because words are things, thoughts are things, and also you learn how to be a receiver. If we think the good thoughts are great, and affirmations are great, but Theo says those are wishes. What happens is when you make a decision, that's when the universal energy aligns with that decision. It's like electricity. Electricity is all around us. It took someone creating the ability to harness it, put it in a cord that we could plug in to make the light work. but it's everywhere. And the only time we think it's not working is if the light doesn't come on or the computer doesn't come on. And then we look where the pattern interrupt to that electricity is happening, the kink in the cord, or the switch turned off, or whatever it might be, because we expect it to work all the time. And it works the same all throughout the world, everywhere in the world now. Well, the law of attraction, that energy, that universal energy is the same way. It surrounds us. You could even call it the electromagnetic field, because it has that electric vibration. But we have what we have because of the way we think. And if you think you're not worthy of the things you want in your life, well, it'll prove you right, because it will bring you that to affirm you. So when I started having my thoughts reframed around this, it's the power of words. So if you're thinking a good thought of, I want this or that, or I want more money. Most of us have had that thought. So let's just use that as an example. I mean, if you say, I want more money, and that's pretty nebulous. I mean, how much do you want? Well, I want $1 million. Okay, that's a finite decision. Now, what's the next thought? Oh, I don't think I can, I can't do that. So what's happened in the first thought, I am the person who's going to have this $1 million, to the second thought that is resistance. You just slam the door on it. So awareness of what you're thinking and speaking. Theo said to somebody one time that they were buying lottery tickets and they were going to win the big lottery. And we've all done this too. But what this person said is, it's okay if I don't win, after they bought the lottery ticket. And they told Theo this, because they were asking, am I going to win the lottery? I bought the lottery ticket. And then they said, it's okay if I don't win. Theo said, you just wasted your money. And because they just negated the whole energy moving forward for the outcome they wanted. That's simple, but it's really true. That's how simple this is. So when we're making those affirmations, make it a decision of, I am the man or I am the woman who is, has, or does. Those are the things in life. I'm going to write a book. I want $1 million. I want good health. I mean, make decisions for those. Those are all pillars of a life well lived. And don't negate them with the thought you don't deserve it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned relationships there as well. And this all plays into, I think it plays into relationships in the sense that, we can thrive in our relationships right now, can't we? And when you do develop that side of yourself as well, when you get more in tune, you're attracting different people into your life, maybe the right people.
Oh, I definitely think that. It's a vibrational match we're looking for. But we have to be that in us as well. So if we are having thoughts about not being worthy, not good enough, not lovable, not smart, and on all the not enough-nesses, well, we're going to attract that to prove ourselves right. But when we start a different dialogue with our adult self isn't the one that thinks that. It's all these little parts of ourselves inside of us who've had life experiences and challenge in which the outside world allowed us to either adopt or create a belief about us that is untrue. And when we realize where those beliefs began, we can change them. We can't change the event, but what we do change is our perception. And we can see the gift and blessing about the growth we've gotten from it. And we can love on those parts of ourselves and bring them into the present. Because the adult part of us isn't the reactor emotionally to life. It's all these other parts of ourselves that hold the beliefs, the unloving beliefs about who we are.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And yeah, again, I mean, spoken about this so many times with yourself, but I mean, the more that we can come from a care and love for ourselves from that respect of worthiness and everything else, and the belief that, as you said, that you're coming from that space of I am worthy of having whatever it is that you're seeking, then yeah, love plays a big part in that. And maybe some people will say, yeah, but how can I love myself more in some respects?
By recognizing where the unloving beliefs began. Again, that's part of the soul integration process, is bringing those aspects of ourselves that first created those beliefs or adopted them because of the outside circumstance. That script can be rewritten, especially when we see and bless those parts of ourselves that have the courage to assist us to be the people we are today. The strengths in us today were gained from all those challenges. So seeing the blessings and the gifts, no matter how horrific the events were, there are gifts and blessings that have made us stronger and better and smarter in many respects. And it's honoring that part of ourselves rather than staying stuck in the victimization of events.
That's the hard part, isn't it? Yeah, to get to that point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we do eventually get to that point, but maybe with a bit of rattler saving and screaming on the journey. But yes,
I've been known in the past, I think I shared this with you, of standing in my living room, shaking my fist in the sky, going, why does this have to happen? And I'm sure the angels and everybody up there were laughing at me, because here I was really, really in the deep pond of self-pity. And that, what that gets you is drowning. So when I finally swam to the shore, then I started changing my mind.
yeah, and that shore was always there, wasn't it? And it was, you just had to just trust it or manifest it as well.
Well, you know what Theo says, which is so true, it's been true in my life. I've been a student of them all these years. But when things become intolerable, that's when they change. And we as a species tolerate a lot. But there is a certain point where we say, nah, not doing this anymore. This isn't fun. I want fun in my life. I'm not doing this anymore. And there is a point in time that we get there. Absolutely. That's the high on my personal ethics list, is fun, personal code of operation. You have to have fun, because laughter is the best medicine. I don't remember who said that, but it's really true. It gives us a lightness of being. And Theo says enlightenment is a lightness of being.
Absolutely. That's and so everything that we've talked about, you've mentioned as well. It all leads into this, doesn't it? And yes, developing that side of yourself, it's just, it just opens up. Yeah, it just opens up aspects of it. But I suppose you've got to be drawn towards it. But I think even dipping your toes in sometimes is you'll be surprised actually what it does for you.
Yeah, and it makes life magical. It's when things start happening that are out of our um, that linear uh, logical experiences, then you start looking for the magic in that. It makes it I get up in the morning and I think, what kind of magic's going to happen today? Because there's always something there, some affirmation, some confirmation of something that I've received or gotten, or an expectation, oh, this is going to happen today, and then it does. So it's intending the magic in our lives, making it intentional.
That's so true. I wonder if we should just bring Theo in just very quickly as well. I feel
Sure.
guilty that I've sort of left it so late into the interview, but I have some questions, and I'm sure just based on what we've spoken about. So thank you so much for everything so far, Sheila.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. Here we go. It is the beginning, is it not?
Theo, thank you so much for giving us this time right now. I appreciate you coming back on the show. Lovely to have your energy here as well with Sheila. So, some of the things that we were touching upon there, and the idea that, well, with everything that's going on around us right now, the idea that tapping into your spiritual side, or even just tapping into the idea of being able to speak to your soul or build up that intuitive side of yourself, how important that just, can get you through all the mud in a sense to see the bigger picture sometimes.
It does, because things are not always as they seem externally. And when you are connected to the infinite, the guidance that is ever present about you and to your higher self, there's a sense in knowing that all is well and that you are supported. You're not alone.
That's an important part, isn't it? That we miss sometimes. That actually, when you do tap into that side, that's a really important part. Actually, that it shows you that you're never alone. That that there's this vastness around you of spirit, and it can in these times it can feel very isolating with issues that we're going through, the problems that that we're all suffering with right now with what's going on internationally and everything else. And I'm sure that's only going to build a little bit just for us to go through this process. I hate to say that, but yeah, we're not alone. You're never alone, are you?
No. And in the asking, it can be given, that assistance that you would seek. But importantly, you must let it in. So if there's resistance in even asking, clarify who inside is resistance to receiving. And in that can change the trajectory of your life, in that understanding and the resolution within that comes from clarity.
Oh, that's just so powerful, isn't it? Again, I mean, that's just so powerful because, yeah, what is the block? Sometimes it can be. I'm too fearful, for example, to switch careers. I've been doing this for so long, and I want to go to this, and I just can't. There's no easy way just to switch, or there's that analogy, but there's so many other analogies. It could be relationship issues. It could be so many things that we're not, we don't believe that we can get. Or I don't know if is it a belief that we can get. I think it comes from fear a lot, doesn't it? A lot of it all comes down to fear.
It is fear-based. And whether it's changing relationship, releasing a relationship, the fear of there may never be love again, or changing jobs. What if you wouldn't have a job? What the realization comes is that you're making it up anyway. You're creating the job, you're creating the relationship. So if that is true, and we know it is, make it up good. Get what you want. Be the person who is receiving in life the fullest life, a life well lived.
But then if you're not receiving it and it's not there, that must be a sign as well to say, well, that there's something deeper that's still going on, or maybe I should say it maybe from the perspective of you're not listening to what you should be doing. That's
It's
why the
also
voice there.
most often a belief that you're not worthy of having what you want. And that can be changed. For having a life well lived is a birthright. And you're not taking away from anyone else or anything else to have that life. To express the fullest energy of your soul in your incarnation is its desired outcome, however that expresses through you.
Yeah, and especially in these times right now, that can still take place, no matter what's going on, as crazy as it is on the outside, right? Or on the TV or whatever, you know, or just on the mainstream news, or even on the alternative news, right? You know what? It doesn't stop your life going on.
That's correct. Because understand this, every soul chooses to incarnate. It's not forced upon them. And every soul has an outcome desired in growth for that particular life expression and experience. And an understanding that each soul chooses their path. And typically, when one views outside the world things that are going on, they're viewing from the lenses they see themselves, whether they can work through those challenges or they wouldn't be able to do. It's all about their perception of what's going on. Yes?
Absolutely. So if someone's going to develop, thank you for that. If someone's going to develop their spiritual and psychic abilities, or just the exploration of it, right? What is that person's life, from a perspective of having gone through that exploration with some help with people like, or beings like yourself? What does that life look like once it's had that sort of exploration? What's the difference do you think it makes?
It makes the difference of knowing you're not alone, but having that ultimate guidance from the infinite energy that surrounds you. And working with the infinite, there is no the linear life of constriction.
That's important, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, but that constriction is only blockages in the flow. The infinite is a constant stream that is there to bring forth the outcomes desired. It's just being mindful and judicious about your thoughts. You can have what you want. And that can be off-putting to some who want to resist and say, no, you can't. That's from a belief of not being worthy of the life you wish to live. For everybody, a life well lived can be defined differently, can it not?
What's one person's cup of tea is not someone else's, in a sense.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to enjoy your cup of tea if that's what you want to do.
Yes, and understand this, each of you, each human Each soul that has chosen to be incarnate now is like woven into this beautiful tapestry of human experience. And each thread that you are is important to the fulfillment of that tapestry and the beauty in it. For each of you has chosen to be here, and that is significant.
And again, we always forget that, don't we? That no matter what you're doing, as your analogy of the tapestry, it's all meant to be. There's something that you're adding that you just, when we observe it from whatever that other person or other people are doing, we don't understand what they're adding to the tapestry sometimes, because we only see our sort of minute part of it, in a sense. But it's all part of the bigger picture, isn't it? In some unfathomable way. Yeah.
And there's beauty and uniqueness in each and every thread.
Even the dark stuff, even the dark side, in a sense, what I would call dark, in a way.
If it's not dark, you will not know light, correct?
Absolutely.
And there's beauty in the dark as well.
For what maybe the soul is going to get from that long term that we wouldn't understand on such a short term basis, maybe. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Or as Sheila used the perspective in this conversation where she talked about the higher view, maybe there is a higher view on everything. We just see it from the, yeah.
It's broadening your aperture. For humans, up until now, have had a very myopic view. But when the apertures broaden, you get a different landscape, do you not?
Yes, it's like being on the lower floor, then going all the way up to the 50th, in a sense. It's just a different view of it, isn't it? Yeah, I may say it's an amazing view on the upper level.
It is, yes. And when you're changing belief systems, you're changing from that myopic view that is most limiting to the broader view of all that can be. And you are more than you think you are, and you have more than you think you do. And so, in essence, on your journey, knowing this to be true, you begin now with what you have and just add to it as you grow.
Absolutely. I mean, you prophesized this, the times that we're in right now. I mean, you've brought the information through. I'm sure there's bits. I'm sure we only got what we needed to get at the time, which is still serving to this day. But I guess there's more to come, isn't there? This changing time right now. This is a time that, well, it's meant to be, but I feel there's a we're a way to go yet. Let me try to say it that way.
Yes, but not too long. Of course, we have a broader perspective on time as well. But it is to understand that we're going to say this is the second coming. This is the revelations. It's not the destruction of the world. It's releasing that which does not work and birthing new what will. It's the evolution that is happening now in the highest good of all species on this planet.
Yes, I feel that. And I'm probably sure a lot of people just don't understand where the future's going right now. But it's just, there's no other way forward, is there, but to walk the path.
It's true. You just keep going. And you'll see a beautiful outcome.
I truly do believe that. I do. And there's no other way to evolve, I guess, is there? This is the ride of the human experience. I mean, we wouldn't be here if we didn't want to experience it or be part of it, would we?
That's correct. It is a choice. And the only way out is through.
Yeah. And that's the message that I get a lot on this show, is the idea that living in purpose is part of getting through it. Doing what you feel drawn to do, even in times of great change. It's so important. It's so important.
Be steadfast. And look for the humor. Look for the confirmations. Look for the magic. It's too easy to fall back into the old paradigm and beliefs of what if something horrible is going to happen. Flip that to what if something wonderful is happening. And that is what will happen.
Any sort of final message that you might like to just leave us with?
Know that you all are here purposefully for life, for this life, and this shift of consciousness of which you each and every one are a part, playing your part for the change, relinquishing the beliefs of the past that have limited human expression and experience, birthing new ways of being so those old patterns are changed for the past, the present, and the future. And that is blessed. We are complete if there's no further questioning. God's love unto you. Good day.
Thank you so much for that Sheila. Yep, so true. Theo's got a great way of putting the truth across. So I just want to just say here as well that yes, you are doing, let me just reiterate this, you've got a spiritual and psychic exploration with Theo, which is a 2-day virtual retreat which starts April the 22nd, and then you've also got the spiritual and psychic exploration, a 12-week mentorship as well. So I guess the first one is a sort of, not a teaser in a sense, but it's a very short but compacted version of the 12-week, which the 12th week I'm guessing is much more in depth and a much more one-on-one with Theo.
Yeah, that's true. And it's kind of like putting your foot in the water, see how the temperature is. That's what the retreat is, beginning the process. And then we have the 12-week program. This is a deeper dive into everything that we address in the two-day retreat. Yeah. So those who are inspired oftentimes will say, yeah, I want more of this, and go into the 12 weeks. So there are two ways to participate, and you can do all or one or the other. It's an opportunity. If you're a seeker and you want to know more and you want to be more comfortable and experience your gifts, come and play in those with us. Absolutely. It's a lot of fun too. As you know, you were there.
I was there for the 2-day, and I can definitely say that I just got to express or experience that side of me, which I don't normally do, which is that psychic side. And I'm like, wow, it's there, when you just, let go, and just when you're with people like-minded as well, and there's no judgment, and it was a really nice 2-day event actually. But it just went too quickly, so I can understand why you've got the 12-week one, and yeah, like I said, it's a bit more of a one-on-one, because the 2-day can be very busy sometimes as well. So I just want to mention as well, you've got your book, which we've not really discussed your book, but we've touched on some aspects of it. Your new book is called
The Art of Relationship: Discover the Magic of Unconditional Love. And it touches everything in relationship. And it speaks about Theo's process of soul integration. And yeah, it's a wonderful book. The labor of love, for sure.
And your website as well, where people can find out more information about yourself.
AskTHEO.com.
Great. Well, that's been coming up on the screen throughout this interview. Sheila, I just want to say thank you for coming back on and really appreciate just the work that you do. And yeah, we'll have to get you back on at some point, not too long as well. So thank you.
Oh, Kevin, it's been a delight having this chat with you and spending time with you again. I so enjoyed it. Thanks for the invitation. And next time, we'll
Most
do
definitely.
another for sure.
Most definitely. Thank you.